Hey, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of BBCG and Friends. And I have the legend, the one and only Steve from Gloucester with me. Steve, welcome to the show.
Hey Bill, how you doing?
Doing great, doing great. We're uh, we're moving along here in June, hoping that summer kicks in, and it sounds like it will next week. So,
Yeah, I heard a
starting,
heat wave's coming up.
yeah, absolutely. So before we start, I just want to make sure you have not written or mailed me any sort of manifesto complaining about this show, Steve. Before we go any further, let's clear that up for the listeners.
No, nothing yet, but let's see how this episode goes because there might be a letter in the works.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
um, so first off, let's just start with the big event from last week. Congratulations on your team's victory over Barstool, New York. How is the knee holding up?
Well, thank you first of all for the win. For the nice comments about us winning. We did it for Cinema and his family, and it was great
Absolutely.
to get the win. It was an unbelievable experience, and we're looking forward to the next matchup with Barstool in New York on the 29th. I think that's where everybody's mind is focused now. We obviously want to win, not just for Cinema but ourselves. So we're really looking forward to this game. As far as the knee goes, I had an appointment this morning. I can't give away my injury status publicly, but there is a sliver of hope that I should be able to play in this game if everything works out correctly as far as the plan over the next 2 or 3 weeks.
All right. Well, that's next level, not giving your opponents that information on your knee.
Yeah,
I'm
just,
sure.
just the skip and the team knows, but we'll leave it at that for right now.
My sources down in New York were telling me they were planning a box and one against you for July, for the end of July. So it's very smart not to share that.
Did,
Very
did
good.
that did that come from Terry Mayrose by any chance?
I don't know who that person is. So
Rico Bosco.
I'm just teasing, of
Yeah.
course. Um, so let me start this way, a little different than I normally do. Um, first of all, happy sixth anniversary to the Kirk Minahan show. Without this show, neither of us would be talking today, and appreciate all that show has given all of us. So congrats to the Kirk
Absolutely.
and everyone there. Um,
Absolutely.
so thinking about 6 years of the show and thinking about all the characters and all the people who have been involved. You've been a main player the last couple of years, and I don't know if there's been a lot of people who've had as many ups and downs with the relationship with the show as you have. So
Yeah.
my question to you is there or has there been a musical artist that you've had your ups and downs with? Perhaps you really liked them at first and then they put some music out that just annoyed the crap out of you and you steered away from them. Is there an artist that you've fell in love with and then fell out of love with?
Oh, absolutely. Van Halen is the number one on my list. When it comes to that, I've had a love-hate relationship with them for many decades. I was into, the original Core Four, with, Roth,
Yep.
the Eddie and Alex and Michael Anthony. And then when the breakup happened and Sammy Hagar came in, then I kind of like went away from them a little bit. But then I kind of got back into them when For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge happened, when they
Right.
released that. But then, the fallout happened again where, Dave was potentially coming back. So it's just been a love hate relationship with them.
Okay. Where did you end up? Did you go see any of the shows 5 or 6 years ago with Roth and Wolfgang, Wolfie in the band?
I didn't. The only time I saw them was back in, I want to say 2012. It was like the different kind of, what was it? Different kind of something. I can't remember the full name of the tour, but,
Right.
TD Garden, it was the core four with David Lee Roth. And to me, that was Van Halen personified. I love their old stuff. Obviously, 1984 was great, and you're looking at Women and Children First. I thought was a great album.
Yep.
So I really enjoyed early to mid '80s Van Halen the most.
Okay. Okay. So, I mean, my favorite is that period, and I love Diver Down. I know
Yes.
it's not as well thought of as some of the other early albums, but that's definitely one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah, and I just didn't like the way that they treated. I know there was a big thing going on with Roth and Hagar and all that. I just didn't like the way that the brothers treated Michael Anthony when, obviously there was that big disruption and they weren't playing, and Michael Anthony said, "Well, I'm a guitarist. I want to play," and he went off with Hagar into the circle, and when they cut him off and gave it a reason for him to be exiled from the band, that kind of, it left a bad taste in my mouth. But I knew obviously that they, wanted Wolfgang, to be a part of it. But that to me was like, it hit hard because I was like, he didn't do anything wrong. I mean, the guy just wants to play music, and the brothers didn't want to play. So, how does he get punished for that? Like, that's something that I just never understood.
Yeah, yeah. Have you had a chance to read the Alex Van Halen book that came
I
out?
did, yes. When it came out, I got it. I thought it was terrific. And I saw recently that he basically retired, from music. I read something where, he doesn't, they obviously don't want to play, without Eddie. So, he's kind of like retired from music now. And, I think a lot of it too would have to do with health reasons, but
Yep.
just a shame that, it was such a great band, in the 80s. And, to have all that madness go on, I think really, hurt them.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's a big miss for me. I never got to see any version of Van Halen live.
Yeah.
So I regret that for sure. Yeah, I need to get that book. I haven't read it, but I've heard a lot about it, and I
It's
think
great because it talks about like their early life,
yep,
growing up, and how tough the father was on them, and how they all started off in the music business, and how tough it was for them, to get gigs in the beginning, and then all of a sudden they morphed into like one of the greatest bands, and at one point they're opening up for the Rolling Stones, which is my all-time favorite band of all time. So
okay,
it's
good.
unbelievable how everything came full circle.
So that's interesting. So they're your favorite. Give me Steve from Gloucester's top 5
Albums or songs?
artists.
Artists. Okay, so we're gonna go with Rolling Stones, obviously, Van Halen, a combination of like Genesis, Phil Collins,
Okay.
Huey Lewis and the News, and I would probably, my 5 is maybe like Nirvana. Maybe I was into Nirvana a little bit, but I think I have to switch more of an old school Italian where it was Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin, of course.
Now you're cooking.
Yes.
Now you're cooking.
Yes.
All right, Sinatra. I'm going to put Sinatra as your number 5.
Yeah, because that was big, obviously, in my house growing up. My parents, it was either Frank or Dean or Frankie Valli. I mean, that's pretty much what was going on in my house growing up. And then, obviously, a lot of Elvis. So there was a lot that I gained in the music world, as far as my enjoyment of it by what my parents listened to.
Yeah, so my mother had a big issue. I don't know what it stems from with Dean Martin, but so she loves Sinatra, and that's what we listen to in our house. So
Yeah,
I totally get it. Now you say Genesis / Phil Collins. Now, if I put a gun to your head, life on the line, who do you choose? Which do you choose? Just Phil as a solo artist, or do you go with Genesis?
I think I go with. I actually do like Genesis more than Phil Collins. One of my favorite, one of my two favorite songs that just come to mind was on the Duke album. I'm not sure if you remember that one.
I do, sure.
Turn It On Again and Misunderstanding. I mean, those two I could play, repeat after repeat. I could listen to them 1,000 times in a row, and I don't think I get bored with them.
That's when I kind of got hooked into them, that album. And then Abacab, I think,
Yes.
was next. And then they had that Three Sides Live
Yeah.
album.
I think
And
Abbott had, like, was it No Reply at All off the top of my head? Wasn't that like the big hit from that album?
I believe it was. Now you're
Yeah.
gonna make me look. But yeah, that's I love that album.
Yes.
And simultaneously, Face Value got released, right? Phil Collins solo album. It
Yeah.
was, I mean, the '80s really were his decade.
Yeah, and I think he had, like, what was it, No Jacket Required or something like that, and
Yep.
he really, yeah, he dominated the '80s, and I saw them in 2020 or 21 in the Boston Garden, and on their comeback tour, and it was just tough to see him in the way he is now with his health, where he's sitting down, and
Right.
just I mean, the voice is great, but it's just how frail he is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's. I mean, he was just a tremendous drummer. He was amazing, and I just pulled that album up. Yeah, No Reply at All was the big hit. Also, Man on the Corner
Yes,
was
yes.
another great one.
And
Um,
I remember as a kid, remember that song he did with Philip Bailey? Was it Easy Lover or something like that?
Easy Lover. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was a great song.
Yeah. I mean, he recorded with everybody in the '80s. He recorded with Clapton. He recorded with that woman who used to be in ABBA, Frida.
Yeah,
She had a big hit with him playing on drums. Easy Lover. Yeah. I mean, he was everywhere.
yes,
And, you know, think about he at Live Aid, he played in London, and then jumped on the Concorde and played in Philadelphia. The
yes.
same. Yeah. So crazy. It was definitely a whole Phil Collins decade for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
Um, what was your first concert, Steve?
Uh, I think it was. I think it. Billy Joel and Elton John. Remember the Face to
Mhm.
Face?
Sure.
That was my first one in the early 2000s that I can remember offhand. And then obviously, let me take that back. And I went to a few, Rolling Stones, but again, it was right around that era of, late '90s, early 2000s,
Yep.
were my first time really going to concerts.
Where did you see the Billy Joel Elton John show at Foxborough?
Yes, when they had the pianos face to face, and
Yep.
I wasn't really into, like, Billy Joel a lot or Elton John, but it was just one of those things where I had the opportunity to go, so I went, and I
Yeah.
thought it was great.
Yeah. I saw them together at Giant Stadium down in Jersey. And yeah, it was definitely a fun concert for sure.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Billy Joel, I asked you who's an artist you fell in love with and then fell out of love with. I think Billy Joel would be that artist for me.
Yeah,
I,
I like
l-
his early stuff. I
I
thought, he was again in that Phil Collins role where he was all over the place. I mean, I remember, like, We Didn't Start the Fire was like
yeah,
the song of songs, or Piano Man or something like that. But then he just kind of fell out of sorts. I don't know if it was the things going on with Christy Brinkley or what, but he just wasn't the same.
yeah. His early stuff. I mean, I don't know if you've ever listened to the album Turnstiles
Yes,
or The Stranger. I mean, I love those albums.
yes,
52nd Street was okay, and then I just thought after that it got a little I don't know, repetitive. And also I was very disappointed when he stopped. And by the way, who am I to care or be mad that Billy Joel didn't want to record any more new music after
yeah,
1993? But the thing that bothered me was he kept performing the same sets over
exactly.
and over, where I'm someone who likes to hear deep cuts and different songs. So
Yeah.
so
And isn't
that was turned me off for sure.
it funny, like, because you have a guy like Billy Joel who's unbelievable, who at one point said, "I'm going to stop recording," and I had read recently that the Rolling Stones are starting to put together another album this summer.
Yes. Yes,
And,
I saw that.
and I'm sitting here going, all right, these guys don't have to put together any more new music.
I,
they're what's Keith and Mick, like in their 80s or close to 80.
yeah, they're
And
in their 80s. Yeah.
writing like that, and you know what? Hackney Diamonds wasn't that bad in 2023. So
No.
I'm looking forward to what they're going to release.
Yeah, that album actually surprised me. Hackney Diamonds for sure. I like that more than I thought I would. And you're right. And guys like that can just sit on their laurels. And to be fair, if my criticism of Billy Joel is he doesn't change the set very much, the Stones don't do it either. I mean,
No, not at
they
all. Not at
they
all.
kind of I mean they probably played 2 songs from that new album the last time around, and then you could have
And then you get into the
you
but
get into the greatest hits. Yeah,
how
for
do
sure.
you think there's much of a difference though with Steve Jordan on drums as opposed to Charlie Watts? You see, obviously there's a big difference on stage, but I think they still sound pretty good.
They sound very good. Steve Jordan on drums and Daryl Jones on bass. It's a great rhythm section.
Yeah,
There's just it's. I guess I'd ask you: is it still the Stones if Charlie's not there, who was an original?
yeah,
It's a little less. I don't know. I don't know. It because it's Mick and Keith and Ron. Ron's been in the band since '75.
right,
He's
yeah.
the he's the new guy from since '75. But so I guess you could say it's the Stone. But definitely, I mean, losing Charlie Watts is just a big hit for
Yeah,
sure.
and again,
Yeah.
that could have been another moment with that band that they could have easily walked away and retired. That was
Right.
obviously a huge blow to them, and all three of them took it hard, but they're still continuing. And it's amazing to see.
Well, I mean, think about it, Steve. The Brian Jones passed away, and the next day or 2 days later, they played in front of 100,000 people in Hyde Park in London with a new guitarist, Mick Taylor. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, 2 days later. So, I mean, that's kind of their history. They just keep on keeping on. Where you think of somebody like Led Zeppelin who lost John Bonham in 1980, and that was it.
yeah. Now, where are
Put
you in them? Are you an Exile on Main Street guy or Beggar's Banquet, like Sticky Fingers? Like, what's your top with
Uh,
the
I,
Stones?
I like all of those, but my go-to Stones album is Let It Bleed,
Okay, yeah.
which is from '69, and that has Midnight Rambler
Mhm.
and Country Honk and just so many of my favorite songs on there.
Yeah.
Um,
What was the first one you bought? Do you remember?
I had Hot Rocks, which was
Okay.
kind of a greatest hits at
Yeah.
that point. And and then I kind of moved forward, and I loved Miss You. Was from '78, I think. But then I went
Oh, some
back
good ones.
as I got older, and I found all that classic era, right, of all those
Yeah.
albums you just mentioned. I mean, Gimme Shelter, Love in Vain, Country Honk, Live with Me, Let It Bleed, Midnight Rambler, You Got the Silver, Monkey Man, and You Can't Always Get What You Want. That's Let It Bleed.
Yeah, that's
That's
unbelievable. Yeah, the first two I bought were Some Girls, which I think had
Mhm.
like Miss You and Shattered
Yeah,
and
Some Girls, exactly. Yep.
Faraway Eyes, and then Tattoo You. Remember that one? It had
Hmm.
Stop Me Up, TNA. I think Hang Fire was on there. So
That's right.
those are
Yeah.
my first two that I remember buying.
Um, that's Yeah, though that was right in my sweet spot when I was
Yeah,
15,
yeah,
16 years old for
yeah.
sure. Um, what what was the furthest, and this is gonna take a little curveball for you. I'm trying to think of some new questions for my show here, but what was the furthest you've traveled to see a concert?
You know what? I've never, and this is something that I need to do. It's on my bucket list. Any concert that I've seen has only been in the state of Massachusetts. To be honest with you,
Wait a minute. Wait
I've
a minute.
never traveled. I've
No
never,
Connecticut?
no, I've never done like a Foxwoods thing, and I'm almost 50, and you think I should be doing that, but I've always tried to keep it, local. If there's a local concert, I'll go, and I'm thinking, for example, like I think Billy Idol's coming up in Mansfield in late August. Like that's on my mind, but I've never have been that person to say like, okay, let me, like Kirk or you with like Springsteen, like let me go to this city and go see them, play. It
Right.
just was never on my bucket list of things to do.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun. I mean, if you have a buddy to make these kind of trips with, I went to L.A. in 2012 for two Springsteen shows, and I
Mhm.
mean it was we had the best time, and but put the shows aside. We ate In-N-Out burgers every meal, right? Because there's no In-N-Out burgers here, so
Oh
we
yeah.
had a great time. Yeah, so yeah, I would definitely suggest you try to plot
It's
one
one of
out.
those things I have to plan. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Um, any upcoming third chair appearances can we be expecting?
There's one in July. Cullinane reached out to me. I want to say it's at the end of July, maybe the day or 2 days after our big game. I know that that's my next appearance.
Okay. What's the best part about being the third chair, and what's the worst part?
The best part is meeting, so many people, be it the producers or, Blind Mike, meeting them and, that little bit of conversation before the show. It's always great. You get to, know them a little bit more from, what you see, when the red light's on. But, so that's always a good thing. Obviously, there are some great Mena fans that I've met, at live shows or basketball that are just unbelievably, good people. So I think it's, the people that you meet are great. The bad part about it is, you do have the opposite end where, some Mena fans call you out on everything. So you have to be really sure of yourself when you're giving information out or you're saying things because you know that somebody is going to catch you if the information you give is incorrect. So that's something that I try to be cognizant of, and especially when you are bringing a game to the show and it totally blows up in your face, like you can hear it from the fans.
Absolutely. Oh, that's great. Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate when you're on the show. I truly enjoy when you're in the third chair. It was
Thank
great
you.
meeting you in March at Laconia, and
Yep.
hope to see you again soon. I wanted to thank Minifan Network and Menners for his support, and obviously Kirk. And thanks everybody for listening. Again, I've said this in the past. If anybody wants to join me for one of these conversations, I'd send me a DM. Love to talk to everybody. And I hope everyone has a great day. We'll talk soon. Thank you.